We live in a world addicted to speed, fast answers, fast success, fast validation. And if nothing happens immediately, we call it failure. But what if the pause you're afraid of is not empty time? What if patience isn't the absence of action, but action happening beneath the surface? Stay with this thought, because what you're about to hear may change how you see waiting forever. Patience is not passivity. It is disciplined restraint, a quiet strength that refuses to be provoked by urgency or noise. It is the conscious decision to hold back when every impulse demands immediate movement, the ability to pause without losing direction. Passivity drifts, but patience stands firmly rooted, aware of what it is waiting for and why. It is not the absence of desire or ambition, it is the mastery of them. Where passivity avoids responsibility, patience accepts it fully and chooses the most effective moment to act rather than the fastest one. Disciplined restraint requires effort. It demands emotional control, mental clarity, and a deep trust in process. When someone practices patience, they are constantly working beneath the surface, observing patterns, weighing consequences, and resisting the temptation to react emotionally. This restraint is not comfortable because waiting exposes uncertainty, and uncertainty challenges the ego. Yet patience endures that discomfort because it understands that impulsive action often satisfies emotion but sabotages outcome. The patient mind is active, alert, and engaged, even when the body remains still. True patience is built on awareness. It recognizes that not every situation improves with interference, and that forcing movement can damage what needs time to develop. Growth, whether personal or external, often happens invisibly before it becomes measurable. Roots deepen before branches appear. Discipline is required to allow this unseen work to continue without interruption. In this sense, patience becomes an investment, time placed into alignment rather than reaction, energy saved rather than wasted. Restraint also protects clarity. When emotions settle, perception sharpens. Decisions made from patience carry less regret because they are not born from fear, anger, or pressure. The patient individual does not confuse silence with inaction or delay with defeat. They understand that timing is a form of intelligence and that knowing when not to move is just as important as knowing when to strike. This awareness transforms waiting into a strategic position rather than a vulnerable one. In a world that glorifies speed, disciplined restraint feels unnatural, even threatening. Yet patience quietly outperforms urgency by allowing outcomes to mature instead of collapse under haste. It keeps intention intact, direction steady, and purpose undiluted, operating steadily beneath the surface while others exhaust themselves, reacting to every signal, every distraction, every momentary demand. Stillness can be strategic, not weak, though it is often mistaken for hesitation or lack of confidence in a world that equates movement with progress. Stillness is not the absence of thought or intention. It is the deliberate choice to pause while the mind remains fully engaged. When movement becomes automatic, it loses meaning, but when stillness is chosen, it sharpens awareness. In that pause, perception widens, details emerge, and the noise of impulse fades enough for clarity to take its place. What appears motionless on the surface may be intensely active beneath it. Strategic stillness requires self-control because it resists the pressure to perform for visibility. Many people move simply to prove they are doing something, fearing that silence will be interpreted as weakness. Yet stillness allows observation without interference. It creates space to read the environment, understand motivations, and recognize patterns that hurried action would miss. This restraint is not rooted in fear but in confidence, the confidence to wait until action carries purpose rather than reaction. Those who master stillness are not behind the moment. They are positioning themselves ahead of it, There is power in letting situations unfold before stepping in. Stillness gives time for truths to reveal themselves, for false urgency to dissolve, and for emotional intensity to settle into reason. When emotions dominate, action becomes reckless. When stillness intervenes, judgment improves. This is why disciplined individuals often appear calm during chaos. They are not detached, they are processing. They are allowing information to accumulate so that when they act, the impact is precise rather than scattered. Strategic stillness also conserves energy. Constant motion drains focus and fragments intention, while stillness gathers strength. It prevents unnecessary conflict, reduces errors, and preserves momentum for moments that truly matter. By not reacting to every provocation, stillness maintains control over direction instead of surrendering it to circumstance. It transforms patience into leverage and silence into influence. In competitive environments, those who can remain still while others rush gain an advantage. They see opportunities forming where others see pressure, and they recognize that timing is often more decisive than speed. Stillness becomes a form of preparation, a silent rehearsal that aligns thought, emotion, and intent into a single decisive force waiting for the right moment to emerge. Timing shapes outcomes more than force, yet force is often the first tool people reach for when they feel impatient or powerless. Force demands immediate results, pushing against resistance without fully understanding it. Timing, on the other hand, works with conditions rather than against them. It recognizes that every situation has a rhythm, a natural point of alignment where effort multiplies instead of collides. When action meets the right moment, even small movements create significant change, while immense force applied at the wrong time can achieve very little. Those who understand timing develop a deeper awareness of cause and effect. They observe how circumstances evolve, how people respond, and how momentum builds. Instead of rushing to impose control, they wait for clarity, knowing that insight grows with distance and perspective. This patience is not passive, it is analytical. It allows patterns to emerge and weak points to reveal themselves naturally. When the moment arrives, action feels almost effortless because resistance has already softened. Force often comes from emotion, frustration, fear, or urgency, while timing is born from understanding. Emotional action seeks relief, not results, and it frequently creates consequences that require even more effort to correct. Timing prevents this cycle by delaying action until intention and conditions align. It understands that pressing harder does not guarantee progress, and that restraint can sometimes move things further than aggression ever could. By waiting, timing protects energy and directs it where it will matter most. History and human behavior repeatedly show that the right moment can change everything. Words spoken too early are ignored, spoken too late lose power, but delivered at the precise moment can alter direction entirely. The same principle applies to decisions, opportunities, and transformation. Timing turns preparation into advantage, while force often exposes unpreparedness. Those who rely on timing respect the process and trust that readiness is built through observation and adjustment rather than constant pressure. When timing leads, force becomes unnecessary. Action aligns with reality instead of fighting it. Outcomes unfold with fewer obstacles because the conditions were allowed to mature rather than being rushed into compliance. This understanding separates wisdom from impulse and effectiveness from exhaustion, revealing that strength is not measured by how hard one pushes, but by how accurately one chooses when to move. Emotional control is a form of power, though it is rarely recognized as such in a world that often celebrates loud reactions and visible intensity. True power does not announce itself through outbursts or impulsive displays. It operates quietly through restraint and awareness. When emotions are unchecked, they dictate behavior, pulling decisions away from intention and toward momentary relief. Control does not mean suppression or denial of feeling, but the ability to experience emotion without being commanded by it. This distinction separates those who react from those who choose. The ability to regulate emotions creates internal stability. In moments of pressure, uncertainty, or conflict, emotional control keeps perception clear. Fear clouds judgment, anger narrows focus, and impatience distorts priorities. But restraint allows the mind to remain flexible and observant. Those who master emotional control do not eliminate emotion, they place it in its proper role. Emotion becomes information rather than instruction, something to be understood rather than obeyed. This internal order allows decisions to be guided by purpose instead of impulse. Emotional control also shifts the balance of power in relationships and environments. When one person reacts emotionally, they surrender control to the situation or to others who may exploit that reaction. The individual who remains composed maintains leverage. Calmness under pressure disrupts expectations because it refuses to mirror chaos. This steadiness influences outcomes without confrontation, often changing the direction of events simply by refusing to escalate them. Control becomes a silent force that shapes interaction rather than being shaped by it. Developing emotional control requires discipline and self-awareness. It means noticing emotional triggers without immediately responding to them, allowing space between stimulus and action. That space is where power resides. In that pause, choices become available that would otherwise be invisible. Over time, this practice builds resilience, making emotional storms less overwhelming and more manageable. The controlled mind recovers faster, adapts more easily, and wastes less energy on regret. In high-stakes moments, emotional control determines who leads and who follows. Those who can remain grounded when others are overwhelmed naturally command trust and authority. Their presence signals reliability, not dominance, and their actions carry weight because they are not driven by volatility. This form of power does not rely on force, volume, or intimidation, but on mastery of the inner world, where true influence is quietly forged. Growth often happens invisibly before it becomes visible, a truth that challenges the modern obsession with immediate results and constant proof of progress. Most meaningful transformation begins beneath the surface, in spaces where there is no applause, no validation, and no measurable outcome yet. These early stages are quiet and often uncomfortable because they demand trust without evidence. What is forming cannot be displayed, only endured, and this is where many abandon the process, mistaking silence for failure. Invisible growth requires patience because it resists measurement. The mind learns before behavior changes, resilience builds before confidence appears, and strength develops before it is tested. During this phase, effort feels unrewarded, as if nothing is happening, yet the internal structure is being prepared for what is to come. Just as roots deepen long before branches rise, internal alignment must exist before external expression becomes possible. Without this foundation, visible success collapses under pressure because it was never supported by depth. This unseen work often involves struggle. Doubt, repetition, and uncertainty are constant companions during periods of invisible growth. Progress does not feel linear, it feels stagnant. Yet every moment of persistence adds to capacity, even when there is no sign of advancement. Skills are refined in obscurity, discipline is formed in routine, and character is shaped in moments that no one witnesses. These quiet repetitions accumulate, slowly transforming potential into readiness. The danger lies in comparing invisible growth to visible outcomes in others. External success is misleading because it reveals only the result. not the process that preceded it. What appears sudden is usually the consequence of long, unseen preparation. When individuals measure their worth solely by visible milestones, they undermine the very process that produces lasting change. Invisible growth asks for faith and effort, not immediate reward. When growth finally becomes visible, it often seems effortless to outsiders. They see the result without recognizing the long period of silence that made it possible. This visibility is not sudden. It is simply the moment when internal progress crosses a threshold and expresses itself outwardly. What was once hidden becomes undeniable, not because it appeared overnight, but because it was allowed the time and space to develop fully without interruption. Waiting with intention separates wisdom from impulse, because intention gives direction to delay, while impulse demands immediate release. Impulse reacts to discomfort, uncertainty, or desire without consideration of consequence, seeking relief rather than resolution. Intentional waiting, however, is an active mental state. It observes, evaluates, and prepares, even while outward movement is paused. This form of waiting is guided by purpose, not fear, and it transforms delay into a strategic choice rather than a loss of momentum. Wisdom understands that not every opportunity must be seized the moment it appears. Some opportunities are tests of restraint, designed to reveal whether action is driven by clarity or by urgency. Waiting with intention allows time for motivations to surface, both one's own and those of others. It creates space for emotional reactions to settle into rational thought, preventing decisions that satisfy the moment but compromise the future. Through this pause, wisdom filters noise from signal and desire from necessity. Impulse is loud and impatient. It thrives on pressure and thrives in environments where speed is mistaken for competence. When people act impulsively, they often confuse motion with progress, believing that doing something is better than doing nothing. Intentional waiting challenges this belief by recognizing that premature action can close doors that patience would have kept open. It respects timing as a variable just as important as effort, understanding that readiness must exist on both sides of any decision. Waiting with intention also builds self-mastery. It requires emotional regulation, confidence, and trust in one's judgment. The ability to wait without anxiety demonstrates control over internal impulses rather than surrender to them. This control strengthens discernment over time, making future decisions more precise and less reactive. Each deliberate pause reinforces the habit of thoughtful action, gradually replacing impulsive tendencies with measured responses. Those who practice intentional waiting often appear calm in situations that provoke urgency in others. This calmness is not indifference, it is awareness. They are attuned to subtle shifts in circumstances, ready to move when alignment appears rather than when pressure demands. When they finally act, their decisions carry weight because they are supported by observation, patience, and clarity, distinguishing wisdom as a disciplined practice rather than a spontaneous trait. Patience is not delay, and waiting is not weakness. Stillness, timing, and emotional control shape outcomes more quietly than force ever could. What grows unseen matures with depth and stability. Those who wait with intention do not fall behind. They arrive prepared,